Hey, everyone. It is Jeanette the Oracle, founder and CEO of Inner Sun Alchemy. I am here today with a very important message that is timeless, um, but especially so right now. And it's about ascension, the ascension of our consciousness. Um, so, what is ascension? Ascension really is the crafting of our soul in such a way that it allows for our individual spirit to shine through without obstruction. But that's it. So it's allowing our or working towards the crafting of our soul in such a way that it allows for our spirit, our individual spirit, to shine through. So let's talk about the difference between our spirit and our soul. Because we use those terms interchangeably, and sometimes I will too, just for ease, because I do get, you know, frustrated if I have to continue to give definitions for things. But this is a more nuanced and a deeper message, and it is a collective message. So I do want to be a little bit more specific with language as it points to things that are not bound by our language, which we've made up, right? So the difference between our spirit and soul. Our spirit is literally the breath of God moving through, animating, enlivening us. It's what has us be alive. It is a portion, a drop, um, an aspect, whatever terminology helps with this. But it is a part of literally God, lifing itself, existing through us, right? And so we are these individuations, these individual kind of self-reflective, self-aware, conscious um, essences of God. Okay. So, that phrase, the God within, is literal. There is no separation from our parent because it is our parent that is literally breathing us into life, existing us into existence every single nanosecond. It's not our ancestors, it's not our guardian angels, it's not the fairies that we may work with, it's not the dragons. It is God. And it is also God that is breathing life, existing everything into existence. Okay, so that is our spirit at the core. That's a big thing, but that is our spirit at the core. And just as we kind of compartmentalize or categorize how God shows up in existence, those divine aspects, those movements of the divine, whether that is grace or mercy or miracles or blessings or the fire of God, the love of God, whatever it is, we can kind of resonate with certain kind of energies specifically that are part of that core divine essence. That's a whole other conversation, but there's that. So, what is the soul then? The soul is that which is created between our individual spirit, us as children of God, and everything else, the world around. So all the other people, places, things, circumstances, right? So that medium between these two, so self and other or world, existence, universe, everything that's there in the middle, that field that's created, that electromagnetic field that our spirit takes on and uses as a way to interact with the outside world in a specific way, that is our soul. And that includes, our physical bodies as well. It includes like so many things, but it's everything that goes into crafting who we are as we're interacting with the outside world. Okay. So our soul is, yes, made up of our mind, our emotions, our physical body, like I said, our electromagnetic field. But everything, even in the physical, is actually energy just taking different forms. So everything is consciousness. With us as, and speaking just in the energy terms, just for simplicity, for me, not necessarily for you. But our choosing of how we want to show up and what we are having to deal with in our individual worlds, because that's going to be different for each person, right? That shapes the song of our soul. So what do I mean by song of our soul? The geometry of our energy field, the sound, vibration, frequency of our energy field. That is very specific. And that can be shifted, adjusted, changed, morphed, and that happens constantly, right? And in the early part of our time growing up as children, a lot of our soul, a lot of ourself was molded and shaped and formed to harmonize with the world in which we lived. So the home environment, those patterns of behavior with our parents and siblings, the belief systems there, the belief systems in our culture, our friends, family, school, all of that went into shaping our soul. And so that essentially was acting as a prism, glass, if you will, right? That light, our inner light, our spirit shines through and emits its energy. And that's all well and good until we start acknowledging or coming home to the fact that some of those adjustments, some of those adaptations that our soul has picked up on and adapted to, again, in order to navigate the world and to fit in the world that we've lived in, isn't lining up with the energy that our soul is wanting to emit, the frequency, the vibration, the way of being, the belief systems. And so we start to feel a certain kind of dissonance and eventually start going on a path of essentially reclamation, of a return to soul sovereignty, as I like to say, of returning home, of reclaiming the self, constantly coming back to what is authentically the true self. And it's uncomfortable to make those adjustments to our soul, because what it means is we have to actively identify what's out of alignment with our own spirit and shift our belief systems, shift our patterns, shift our relationships, shift our world essentially in such a way that the environment that we have is affirming and supporting our soul so that our light can shine through with minimal, if any, obstruction. And so that's the journey. Now, some folks, depending on the situation, life circumstances, whatever, can go through that process actually pretty quickly because there's not as much resistance to their true self, depending on the actual environment that they're in, right? The world that they live in. For others, it's really, really, really hard. Especially if you're someone who is part of a excuse me, an oppressed class, oppressed identity, oppressed ethnic background, religious background, or whatever. They can do so many things, right? There's a full spectrum of what that can look like on the journey of reclamation of self. Now, this reclamation of self isn't to say that the external conditions are wrong or bad in and of themselves. Yes, you can have your value systems around those. That's a different discussion. But they are just there. The mechanics are the same. Whatever is outside builds into and crafts, whether consciously or unconsciously, the nature of your soul. And so we can work with that by seeking to adjust things, both internally and externally, to line up most as best as possible with our authentic self, or not, right? But that ultimately is the core driving essence of our inner spirit through our soul, through this individual, incarnation, because the drives and experiences that come out of this particular life, this particular incarnation, is not necessarily going to be the ones in another incarnation. So it's not like it's this and only this, right? God is bigger than just one desire, right? God is bigger than one obstacle. So there is more that's available. But in this moment now, and also in general for us as humanity, the drive, the push of our spirit is ascension, which again is a coming back home to self and an expressing of that self in a way that is unobstructed. So, with that being said, I want to get guidance around this topic, in particular from Spirit, for all of us, because it was coming through. Because, yes, like I said, it's a general, I call it divine assignment and directive for us as a collective of humanity, regardless of what time it is in human history. This is the work. But it seems particularly potent now to speak to. One second. Okay. I apologize for that longish pause, but my computer was being weird, but I think we're okay now. That means I need to, well, that actually means that might have been the message. Um, I still want to pull cards. We'll see if the technology will allow. Um, and if not, then that means what I just spoke was the message. Um, but what was seeming to come through was the call to more actively engage in this process of returning home, of reclaiming more of the self. Okay, we are getting cards, so that's good. Nothing shut down yet. Thank you for your patience. So this is an affirmation. As much as come through, we really might not get these cards out. This is an affirmation that if you've been hearing that call, that nudge in any way, shape, or form, this is affirming that yes, you need to. It's time now to refocus and shift to prioritizing this work in your life. So whenever you come across this message, it is a message for you. And again, this is always having to be there, but this purposeful, active re-engagement is what's coming through. So that means that in however many ways we have strayed away from or forgotten who we really are as souls, as spirits, as children of God. I'm going to show the cards real quick, but I won't spend time going through each card just because I don't want to push it with the technology. But we have Queen of Pentacles, Wheel of Fortune, Ten of Wands, Ace of Swords, Page of Swords, Two of Pentacles. So with this double 10 energy with the Wheel of Fortune and the Ten of Wands, like, yes, it is time. So the work that has been done up to this point, building and working in our lives in whatever way that has looked like, that has been needed. That was the path that we were supposed to be on. It wasn't, none of that was a mistake. We weren't behind. None of those kinds of judgments. Like, that's not the energy. But that stage has now come to an end, and it is time to um, revisit and circle back to this remembrance. And this is about reclamation, about listening to spirit. For some, reclaiming the crown, putting it back on if you've taken it off. So I'm getting skills with this. So there may be specific skills that you need to work on, we need to work on developing or going back to and refreshing to kind of kick in that muscle memory, if you will. That's actually where a lot of the focus needs to be, because that also helps with the communications piece. We are safe, we are loved, we are protected. And there's more available to us, but that more that is available to us will be a natural outpicturing of the more that is available in our relationship, not only to God, but also with our own selves, capital S selves. So this is an affirmation of already being in the new, and essentially going back to help renew the soil, renew the practices um, that got you solid, and wherever needed, expanding beyond there. But this was not only a call from God, but also from our own spirits to do this work. So I will leave it at that. Like I said, I'm not going to push it. I hope that this spoke to you and helped you. If it does, please do share this, because this message, like I said, is timeless and necessary, but it seems really potent right now. So take it to heart as you need. Comment below, send me a message, however you want to relay info to how this is speaking to you. Please share, and God willing, I'll see you next time.